Now the moon is back in fashion, NASA have got competition. The players in a new space race are a mixture of dreamers, hard-headed businessmen, and publicity seekers. But they've got one thing in common. They want action now. This barren desert in a remote corner of Utah is the site of a unique experiment. For 1 week, it's standing in for the surface of the moon, complete with mock-up moon base. This is the Moon Society, a collection of scientists and space enthusiasts who are already preparing for a commercial mission to the moon.
Putting on a spacesuit is a two-person job, and not only because it's difficult, but it also is an opportunity to have somebody else verify that you have all your connections secure and safe. Because the helmet is a confined environment.
I'm not sure what this is here.
Their aim is to establish not just a human colony on the moon, but a full-scale industrial complex. So they spend their days in the Utah desert testing out the technology that could one day be part of their mission to the moon.
I think you always start with kind of a thought experiment. What would it be like to go to the moon? Or what would it be like to live on the moon? What would it be like to work on the moon? And then you take it to paper, and you start making drawings. And then you take it to the next step, and eventually you get to a life-sized prototype. And you try to make things more and more realistic as time goes on, so that you can flesh out the problems that you need to address in order to get there. So the more realism you can introduce, the more of your homework you can do ahead of time to make sure that the mission is successful.
And as they trundle around practicing being on the moon, they can't help but dream.
Well, people on the moon would be involved in using resources to start manufacturing. First of all, they want to manufacture as much of their own building materials and other things that they need. Anything they manufacture there will be cheaper than it is to bring up from Earth's surface. They could also, if Mars were to start a settlement on Mars, the moon and Mars could trade, and they'd be much more viable together than either one separately.
But there's a problem. They don't actually have a spaceship or any money, but their optimism is unquenchable.
It's when people move to the moon. It's an eventuality. It's not something that's probably going to happen or might happen. It's something that will happen.
Others are less ambitious than the Moon Society. For some, the moon represents a straightforward commercial opportunity.
We started out as a group of engineers and space enthusiasts, got together online, and posed ourselves the challenge of what is the lowest cost but commercially viable lunar mission that we could come up with. We came up with the Trailblazer mission.
Unlike the Moon Society, Trailblazer have at least found a rocket to take them to the moon, although not an entirely conventional one.
The launch vehicle is a converted SS-18 Satan ICBM.
That's a Cold War nuclear missile.
They essentially take the missile out of the launch silo, remove the warhead, recondition the payload bay to accommodate commercial payloads.
But these commercial payloads do not include people. Instead, the converted missile will deliver much cheaper and lighter items to the surface of the moon.
This is a line of cosmetics. There's actually a lipstick. You can see the obvious space theme. One of the more popular cargo items is with artists. This is from a gentleman in Minnesota who has an art gallery. And this is Alchemist, and this is Intelligence of Beauty. These are original artworks. We also have several customers who have asked us to carry representative samples of cremated remains from loved ones to the lunar surface. The going rate for cargo is $1,000 a gram, including handling and packaging and delivery to the lunar surface.
It's not immediately clear what the point is of delivering lipstick to the surface of the moon, but if someone's willing to pay, the technology is there to do it.
This is the penetrator which will carry commercial cargo to the surface of the moon. Down the middle of the penetrator is a 1-inch, 2.5 centimeter open cargo space into which we can load various objects to be carried to the surface of the moon. It's carried internally inside the spacecraft, and when the spacecraft impacts at the end of the mission, this will punch through the front and come to rest about 10 meters into the lunar soil.
This is very much a commercial proposition. They're even offering to deliver business cards to the surface of the moon, or rather 10 meters under the surface.
We have a standard rate for regular-sized business cards. One business card just happens to weigh, well, about 1 gram. We expect these items to be there practically forever unless somebody goes up and removes them.
But the big prize is still to get a person back to the moon. And there is one private sector challenge to NASA's moon monopoly that might just succeed.
Government always plays a big role in getting things started, but after a while, the citizenry has to take over. I mean, after all, the world and the universe belongs to all of us. It's not just individual governments. So I think you're starting to see that now.
Spaceflight participants.
Greg Olsen has already been to space, but he's not an astronaut, and he's never worked for NASA. He's a businessman. Last year, he paid $20 million for a week-long trip to the International Space Station.
I know with my space flight, the money I thought about for 5 minutes, and it was a simple yes or no decision. And once I made the decision, I never thought about the money.
Olsen is one of the new breed of explorers, the space tourists who are prepared to spend millions of dollars to fulfill a lifelong dream. And now there's a company who aim to make their dreams come true. They've already sent 3 people into space, and now they're adding a new destination to their brochure.
It gives me great pleasure to be here today to talk to you, because today is a historic day. Space Adventures is going to the moon.
The moon mission is open to the public, meaning anyone who has the financial capability to afford the price of the seats. They're each priced at $100 million.
At the front of the queue is Greg Olsen.
Oh, I mean, who wouldn't want to see the moon up close? You may not want to go through the space ride to get there, but I mean, just imagine if you could look out and there's the moon. There's this big moon, the way we're looking at the Earth now. To me, it would be mind-boggling. Yeah, I'd really like to do it.
And the company thinks there'll be no shortage of takers.
You really don't have to sell a moon mission. It's making history. It's going where less than 30 people have gone before. You really don't need a sales tactic for that.
In a neat twist from the Cold War rivalry of the 1960s, the company works in partnership with the Russian Space Agency. Rich clients provide the funds, and the cash-strapped Russians provide the hardware. And it's technology straight out of the 1960s, the Soyuz rocket system.
The Soyuz rocket system was first designed in the 1960s for the Soviet lunar program. Once the Americans landed on the moon, the Soviet lunar program was almost just abandoned.
But one of the reasons why it was abandoned was that the Soviet manned lunar program of the 1960s was a failure. Not only did they fail to get a man on the moon, but they also failed even to put a man into orbit around the moon, despite 18 attempts to make the technology work. They hope that the cash injection from the rich Westerners will help them do better this time.
Everything in life is a risk. There's various degrees. The Soyuz was designed for lunar orbit, so it's certainly capable of doing it. Russians have a great space program, great instruction, great cosmonauts, so I would have a lot of confidence.